Welcome to the RVA Returners Podcast, your weekly source for all things Final Fantasy TCG.
Yes. sometimes you just gotta have that Ron Burgundy moment so you can get started.
Unique New York.
The arsonist had oddly shaped feet. You gotta do what you gotta do, man. And what we do is being back here for the next episode of the RVA Returners Podcast. Adam, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Excellent, man. I'm still full from that dinner we had over at Stevens yesterday, man. That was a lot of fun.
That was a good meal.
Yeah, damn good meal, damn good time. Got to play some Smash. Got to hang out with with the boys. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself because we got so much to talk about. But I didn't even introduce us. I'm your host as always, Chris Adams. With me as always is Adam, aka Nathan Lane. So, man, yeah, like I said, we got a lot to talk about today. A lot to unpack. And we've got, as far as like that goes, but then we've got like, a really fun main topic to talk about that we all kind of collaborated on. But, we'll get to that. But we got to start things off like we always start out. Also, the last bit of news for 2018. Because we won't be back until 2019 if my schedule serves me correctly.
That is true.
So we're ending 2018 with a bang, but we're going to do it one more time for this year. And that's the news. All right, Adam, where to start? We've got so much to talk about.
Yeah, there's a ton. I guess we can cover the quick thing first. I think as we were recording last time, Alex chose his promo.
Mm-hmm.
And did the June promo, so it's still got a while. But he chose Opus 1 Heroic Parts.
Why not? I think it's a good card. It looks really good. I think I think it'll really pop as a full art promo. Turns out, I think any cards that are green look good full art.
Yep, that Chinese Justola I think looks pretty good.
Yeah, I wasn't about it when I first saw it, but the more I look at it, I'm like, nah, that's a real pretty card. And I think it's the green. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's good. So what we can expect to see that in June. That was the quick piece. Everything else is, we're opening up the treasure chest and we're unpacking. The first big thing that we got here was the schedule for the Petite Cup circuit.
Yep.
There was a very familiar place on that list.
Yes, I'll run it down really quick.
Yeah.
So we have the reunion, obviously, January 12th in Florida. January 26th is Epic Games in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
February 2nd is Desert Sky Games in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
February 9th, that's the fanfare. That's actually not a Petite Cup, even though it's on this list. So that's kind of weird, but it's not a Petite Cup. Then we have the New York Petite Cup, which is at the Uncommons, obviously in New York. The Toronto Petite Cup at Harry Tarantula in Toronto.
That's an awesome name, by the way.
It's pretty good. And then, you might have heard of RVA Battlegrounds. They're getting a Petite Cup.
I've heard of them. They're an okay shop.
Yeah, February 23rd. I'm sure we'll be there. And then the Kansas Petite Cup / Petite Cup Finals is on March 9th and 10th at Collector's Cash.
Also an excellent store. So, a lot of these names that are on this list, specifically like Collector's Cash, Epic Games, these are very familiar names in the community. You see them, Battlegrounds as well, obviously. You see them streaming all the time. They really put their face out there. And I'm very deserving of these, of having these official events. So that's going to be really exciting. Adam, which ones? Well, obviously, we're all going to be there for the Richmond event. We're going to be streaming it. So, be on the lookout for the RVA Returners streaming the Richmond Petite Cup. We're talking about going to the New York one, like to go play.
Yeah, I think it's not terribly too far. It's probably like 5 hours for us to get there.
Yeah, not terrible.
So I'm not 100% yet, but it should be fine. We'll probably have to leave pretty early in the morning, but I think it's doable. And then obviously the reunion, I'll be there. You're commentating, I'm playing. So
Yep. So the reunion is coming up. Flights are booked. Lodging is acquired. We're in, and it's so funny that because I'm flying separately or flying a different schedule, that we all ended up on the same flight going out. I mean, maybe it's not that weird because it's we're flying the rocket bus that is known as Spirit out of Richmond. And I can't imagine too many Spirit flights around noon are happening.
Right.
But no, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see. And what's really cool is, I think even though there was a lot of outcry about the I guess the end result of the petite cups, like what you get out of it, I still think a lot of people are going to show up to these just to play and prize out.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, right, if it's within driving distance, you should go.
I agree with that.
I'm only flying to the reunion because I had committed to it like before it was even a petite cup, because it was more of like a, hey, let's all get together as a community and hang out kind of thing. The fact that it also happens to be in a petite cup is just a plus.
Exactly.
But I'm not gonna like fly to Oregon or anything. Like I hope that they do well, and like I'm sure tons of people will show up to those too. But like I'm not gonna fly out of my way. And there's also a good chance that like if I win or top 4 one of these things, I don't know if I'm gonna even be able to make it to Kansas for the finals.
Right. As much as I'd love to head out that way and hang out with Cody, I just don't know if I'd be able to make it either.
Yeah, so I mean, it's more about like I gotta save my vacation time for Crystal Cups, because I feel those matter more to me, and so if I have to miss the Petite Cup finals, like if I qualify for that and I have to miss it to go to an extra Crystal Cup, I'm gonna do that. So
absolutely, and I'm actually glad you put it that way, because that's the perfect segue into the next piece of news. The Fan Fest, or as it was renamed, Fan Fair, I believe.
Yep.
So tickets went on sale Friday at noon. Was it Friday?
Friday at 3 our time.
Okay, 3:00 our time, noon Pacific time. The tickets were sold out within 8 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was like 8 to 10 minutes. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and this was a hot button issue for some people. I know you and I wanted to go. I was actually on the page as soon as it went live looking at tickets, but then I was like, I can't take the time off. And the one flight that we saw going out of Richmond was like what, $370 or something like that.
It was around $400, and it was one flight, and we would have been pushing it because I get out of work at 5. The flight leaves at like 7:10, so like you're asking me to get out of work. I basically have to go straight from work, already packed, to an airport, spend $400 on the ticket to fly to LA, maybe sleep, do the Fan Fest, and then fly right back.
Yeah, it would have just been exhausting. So like I was on the page and I was like, nope, can't do it. I have to draw the line in the sand. Can't go, and that's a shame because I really want to go, but I don't know. I think why I brought up that there was a lot of heat on this one was because of how quick the tickets popped up. Like it was like, oh, by the way, tickets are going on sale at noon. Hope you're awake. Hope you're glued to your computer, because otherwise you're going to miss it. And it was capped at 125. And I believe the venue is the exact same ballroom that was for Nats.
It's definitely the same hotel. I'm not sure if it's the exact same ballroom, but it's definitely the same hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a thing that they wanted to do, I think, as like a cool gesture, and maybe they couldn't probably commit but so many resources to it, right? And
no, sure.
So booking this is probably the easiest thing for them to do, and if they do that, then they have to cap it at a certain number.
Right.
It's tough. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was, we didn't know the time the tickets were going to go on sale until that morning. Of course, we were up. I saw that, and I was more than prepared to get my tickets if I was going to go.
Right, and I almost bought a ticket and said, fuck it, I'll figure out the flight later. But then when, because you were looking at flights and I was looking at tickets, and we were just like, no, because we would have had to prepare more, take time off. And this kind of goes back to what we were saying last week, that it was very fast that this thing was happening. And, we want to save that time off. We want to make sure we can travel for Crystal Cups.
Yep.
I think that's the big thing. So, it's a shame. I really hope everybody has a great time at this fan event, because they've got some really fun stuff planned, like a 3v3, just a bunch of alternate formats. I think, isn't there a title tournament as well?
Title, 3v3, and then something called a boss fight, which I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, for everybody who got their ticket and they're going, man, have a great time. We'll be thinking about you. We're mad we can't be there, but for those who are there, have fun. Have a great time.
Yeah, that's the way I see it too. Everybody that got tickets, I hope they have fun. I think it's going to be fun. I'm sure we're going to go next year. So
Oh, absolutely. And maybe next year, I think they'll realize that obviously there is a demand for it, and this is kind of indicative of the entire competitive. What I think is going to be indicative of the entire competitive season. What's happening in the game right now just reminds me. It's like a kid going through like a growth spurt, but they haven't bought any new clothes yet. So like they just can't fit the pants anymore. Their legs are hanging out now, and they just can't button anymore. And I feel like that's kind of where we're going with this game right now. So maybe next year that'll be taken into account if the game continues to grow at the rate that it is. That we'll have a legit like fan fest for this game.
Yep.
So, but that's it's bittersweet. But I know Steven and Lord Byron are going. And Muhammad's also going as well. So we've got, some Virginia representatives there, which is nice. So, spread the good word, do the King's work while you're out there, but most importantly, have a good time. Now the next piece, there was something, was it yesterday or Friday that they announced pretty much what the last 2 world spots are going to be?
Friday. I think it was announced at the same time as the promo, which we'll talk about in a second too, I think.
Yeah. So the Gen Con is going to be pretty much the last 2 spots for Worlds, right?
Yeah, so, I have a few questions about this. Obviously, they're probably not going to be able to be answered yet. Does this mean there's 3 events at Gen Con? So is Gen Con a Crystal Cup plus these 2 mystery spots?
I mean, I hope so. The more events, the merrier. It'll give me more stuff to do. Because I plan on going to Gen Con again this year anyway. Yeah. Just because as a consummate tabletop gaming nerd, I had a blast last year.
Yeah, here's my guess, and this is like nothing's confirmed. This is just me guessing.
Sure.
I'm gonna guess there's 2 events at Gen Con, and Gen Con's not gonna be a Crystal Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. But it basically is. It's not a Crystal Cup, but it is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of them's gonna be title,
mm-hmm.
and I think the other one's gonna be the 2 deck format.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess.
I'd be fine with that.
And so you're going to have 2 world spots at Gen Con, and then you're still going to have the other 6 Crystal Cups. And then if they do it that way, we kind of didn't lose any Crystal Cups. You know how I said before, like we really only have 6 Crystal Cups technically?
Yep.
But if they do it that way, we still basically have the same amount we had last year.
No, that's true. That is true. So we'll see how that unfolds. I'm interested to see how it happens because I know I'm going to Gen Con again this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I heard the word title and my ears perked up like a little puppy dog.
It's, again, not confirmed, but that's my guess. And I feel like they've been pushing it a lot. And it was sealed last year, and I feel like they're pushing title more than sealed this year. And so I feel like it's going to be title. That's just my feeling.
Sure. It's, and we've been pretty right on some things being on the outside looking in. We don't have any kind of like inside scoop on things. So if anybody, that's for anybody who might think that we have, our ear to the streets on this. We've been around the block once or twice, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So, so after that, I know also this weekend, they showed the box topper promo for Opus 8.
Yep. I'm excited for it. I know that.
Yeah. I think it's a good card. I really do.
Yeah. I saw some people thinking that it's not great.
Let's read what it does first. Let's do that.
So I can read it. So it's a Cloud. Yeah. He's 5 CP forward, EX burst, job soldier, category 7. When he enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls, deal at 3,000 damage plus 1,000 for each damage point you received. And then when Cloud is put from the field to the break zone, you may remove 10 cards from your deck from the game, and if you do, return Cloud to the field duel.
Which means you can trigger his ability again.
Yeah, and he's a 9K, if I didn't say that.
Yeah, I think the card's fine. I think, we're looking at another card that's, I guess, effectively a better Cecil, or it's just a Cecil that's in fire.
Yeah, this card is a red Cecil. That's what this card is. It literally reads like a fire Cecil.
Yep.
No different. So I don't understand how people think it's bad if the same people think that Cecil's good.
Exactly. It's the same card, and I think it'll see play in not just fire decks, but a lot of X fire decks as well. I just think it's a good card. It does a lot, and if it dies to a Diabolos, and you just bring it back for the cost of 10 cards, you could potentially be killing another thing, and now you've just they got to activate all their backups, but it's like, okay, cool, you wasted your Diabolus on that, and now he's back at the cost of 10 cards, but I could probably end up winning the game the next turn because I have that body out.
Right, and the reason that people are gonna be like, oh, well, Dark Lord, right? Like, but the thing is, this is a May, right? Like, you don't have to do this.
Yeah, like if you have another one in your hand, don't do it.
Yeah, this is like, I'm gonna do this if I'm gonna win the game, like kind of thing. Like, otherwise, like, fine, you got him, he's dead. Also, he's a burst, which is nuts. Yeah. It's just like Cecil, right? Like, Cecil was already a good card, kind of, and then you're just like, oh, he's got a burst too? Sweet. And it's also like Cecil, where, like, if he hits on the first couple points, it's not going to be great, but if he hits anywhere past point 2, like, he's probably going to kill something. And also, the damage in a lot of situations is going to be better than the Dull Break, because if you've already blocked, you can still stack that little bit of damage to kill something.
Yep, or you can just play the 2 CP Furion or backup VV or forward VV. There's just a lot of things you can do with that where sometimes Cecil just misses.
Yep. I think this misses less than Cecil, but Cecil can kill more things, if that makes sense. Like, because he's just straight break and Cloud is damage, there's more things that can mess with Cloud, but there's more situations where Cloud is better.
Yeah, it's less restrictive, right? They don't have to be dull. It's always going to be a minimum of 4K if it comes off a burst.
Yep.
So I think it's a great card. I think it'll see play. I just don't know in what capacity. I think it'll be fantastic in title.
Oh yeah, my title deck's going to be changing for sure. I mean, I'm going to get more than this card, so my title deck's going to be vastly different, I think.
Absolutely. And you also said, I just heard about this morning. You said they are doing another like Dark Crystal Cup before Nats.
Yeah, that was kind of part of the Crystal Cup announcements, that there will be another LCQ. It'll be called the Dark Crystal Cup, but obviously there's no Worlds invite attached to it. It's just top 4 go to Nats.
So pretty much just like it was the one last year.
Yep, I think it's going to be literally exactly the same.
Well, I hope I don't have to play in that one this year and go X1, make it to top 8, and then just get destroyed. But I couldn't have been destroyed by a better human being.
Yep. I mean, hopefully you don't have to play in it, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. Hopefully I can just be there, and hopefully none of us have to play in it. But
yep.
we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. And you mentioned Crystal Cup dates.
For EU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have announced all of theirs. If you want to read those off.
Yeah, so we got the Ice Crystal Cup in Germany on March the 9th and 10th. Okay, yeah, these are 2 days. Sorry, I was reading it weird. Then the Water Crystal Cups in the UK on the 4th and the 5th of May. The Italy Crystal Cup is Wind, and that's on the 18th and 19th of May. Same month. That's kind of weird.
Oh, wow. That's fast.
Yeah, then the Fire Crystal Cup in Spain on the 13th and 14th of June. The Lightning Crystal Cup in France on the 20th and 21st of July. And then the Belarus Crystal Cup, Earth Crystal Cup on the 7th and 8th of September.
Okay. So it sounds like these are going to take us all through summer into fall, kind of like last year. And I guess you can expect ours to kind of do the same, right?
Yeah, I expect ours to be pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah. I would expect it to be on weekends around that. Maybe not the same weekend, just for the sake of being able to watch streams and things like that.
Yeah, probably also, yes, because Square's going to do probably their official stuff. So I would assume ours won't be on these same weekends, but we'll probably get like one a month, kind of how they're doing.
Yeah, and I could see it being like maybe the week before, the week after, or something like that. Just and that's good, right? Because then we can watch like the EU streams, they can watch our streams, and it's more content for everybody, which is fantastic. I think there's one more piece of news. I don't know, Adam. I may have not written it down.
I mean, if we want to talk about the reunion.
Well, I mean, yeah, reunion is coming up. Like I said, flights are booked, lodging is acquired. It's right around the corner. Like I said, I'm not playing. Me and Matt Rice will be holding down the booth. So, if you're not there, tune in, man. We're gonna entertain the masses. We're gonna call the shots, and we're just gonna have a good time. And Adam, I know you're playing, and I know you've started to kind of narrow down what it is you want to play. How do you feel going into it?
I mean, I'm not really trying to keep anything a secret, to be honest. I I'm not like 100% confident, but I've been playing pretty decent lately. I'm probably gonna be bringing something weird to play. I know I'm pretty aware of like what at least what I feel the best 3 decks in the game are right now, and that's like Mono Wind, Wind Water, and Earth Wind.
Yep,
Not in any order really, but it's those 3. But I've been like doing kind of my own personal stuff, and it's been testing pretty well. So I'm kind of leaning on those decks that I've been playing. So you might see like the 13 monster deck or some Rebels or something like. I haven't decided what I'm playing yet, but like I'm between those things right now. There's a chance I might just cop out and bring Mono Wind or Wind Water though. So
take the layup, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think it'll be a good time, man. I can't wait to see everybody, and I can't wait to. Oh man, that the house we're staying at is going to be off the rails.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun, and I mean a lot of fun people in the house too.
You guys have been dying to have me and Alejandro under the same roof, and well, ask and you shall receive. It's going to be a great weekend.
Should be good. Yeah,
it's going to be a good time. It's going to be nuts. So the last piece of news, we have coming up on the 29th, the community award thing that Tantalus and the Chocobros have put together. You know, I know they have the list of categories and the nominees that everybody's seen. I know it's kind of a divided community, right? On this, I think it's a great idea. I think some of the categories are a little loose, but I think it's the beginning of something that I think we could do every year, and it'll just get better and better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that like it was. No matter the hate you have, the nominations that you see that you don't agree with, like it's from a good place. Like it's all about celebrating the community.
Absolutely.
And so nothing was like I don't think anything was put on there to like make people mad.
I agree with that. It was just, they wanted to recognize the people that have made a name for themselves, and like here's the thing too, right? Like I love this community. I would give anybody who plays this game in this community the shirt off my back if they needed it. And I sincerely mean that. But I think some of the hatred is coming from communities that don't really put themselves out there, right? I think, this game is a very grassroots stage. If you have a community and you're passionate about the game and you want to build the game, like put yourself out there. Post in the group, you can make a YouTube channel, make some videos, stream your weeklies if you have them. I get it. Not everybody can do that. Maybe you have a really small scene. It's maybe like 2 of you guys that play at your kitchen table and you're super passionate about it. But I think if you want the recognition that, maybe if you want to be in that group, put your name out there. Because I think that there's a good chance there's somebody that doesn't post, that doesn't, stream, doesn't travel, that is probably insanely good at this game and could really make a name for themselves if they maybe take that next step. I'm not saying anybody has to do that, but I think if there's going to be some animosity towards some of these awards or this whole concept and some of the community feels excluded, well, include yourself. We are all inclusive. We love to have people. We love when people post decks. We love when people say, hey, my community did this. My community did that. I want to see more of that. But I feel like a lot of times it's just coming from the same places. So if you look at a lot of these nominations for these awards, these are the names from these communities that are putting themselves out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think people shouldn't be afraid to do that. Like, this community is pretty welcoming. Like, share your results, post your results on FFDecks. No one's going to, get your scene out there, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. And no one's going to say, oh, that deck's garbage, or what are these guys playing out there? Like, this game is so wide open, and it's such a brewer's paradise. Yes, there are, like, distinct top decks. But if I see results from, I don't know, we'll pick a place that you don't really hear about, maybe, I don't know, like North Dakota or Kentucky or something, and you see some really wild lists, best believe people are going to try them to see what it's all about, because maybe you know something we don't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's really my spiel on that. I know I'm presenting an award. I'm presenting. I'm presenting. I'm presenting best website, I believe. So that'll be a lot of fun, man. I'm really excited to actually be a part of it. I know I'm nominated in a couple categories, so we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of great names on these lists that are all deserving of these awards, and I think there are some omissions of people that I think are very deserving of a lot of these awards. So I think it's the start of something great, and I can't wait to see it like grow. And as communities grow and as the game grows, it will become a lot more inclusive. But just know I will be wearing a tuxedo T-shirt, so be ready for that.
I mean,
So-
how else can you say you want to be formal, but you like to party at the same time? Right?
That's what I'm saying, right? Dear 6-pound, 4-ounce baby Jesus. But I think that's the last piece of news that we got. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's it. I think.
Do we cover all the headlines? I don't want to, have the late news come back on.
Yep.
All right, cool. So what we want to do here, kind of, jumping from that into, we love making lists here on our podcast. And I think, 2018 is, this was kind of the culmination of our first year actually doing something. We came onto the scene back in February is when we did our first episode. In February, I think.
I believe that's right. I think that's right.
It was right after ARG Charlotte and the Kefka Cup, so it was that weekend.
I mean, this is episode 38. There's 52 weeks in the year. You do the math. I don't know.
Yeah, the math checks out, right? And so, we've seen a lot of stuff in this game, and I know a lot of. As the sets have progressed, I don't want to use the word power creep, but there have been some very, very powerful cards that have popped up, or cards that have popped up and made you reevaluate older cards. And I think, I'm pretty sure a while back we did like a top 5 forwards, top 5 summons, all that. But I think we want to do something different. Like we wanted to do what we think, we want to take a snapshot of, where we're at ending 2018.
Yeah. So these are like in the current meta, not really like. Not strictly power level, because I think that would be a slightly different list, but it's basically just like, in the current meta, these are the best 5 cards from each element.
Yep. And
in our opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of room for debate on some of these, because we were sitting there with Adam Duncan doing this list, and we were all just like, wow, we forgot about this card, or we forgot about this card, or this card's amazing. But, where does it fit, like, currently in the meta? And pretty much every element list came down to, all right, well, we've all 3 agreed on these 3 cards. So those 3 are definitely in.
Yep.
So now we've just got to fill in the blanks. So, yeah, what we're going to do is we have, like I said, like Adam said, the top 5 cards currently that we feel for each element. And also an honorable mention. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. Adam, we're starting with fire, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All right, so our honorable mention for fire, this one was tough, was actually Aegis. I think Aegis brought something to fire that was needed because of all these new Warriors of Light, and the fact that it allows you to play fire as kind of a splash element with other 2 drops, because he's not restricted as to what he can put in. But I also think he was the card that really boosted the Warrior of Light tribal.
Yeah.
And I think as long as Warrior of Lights continue to be a thing and fire continues to be this kind of low to the ground, aggressive, Aegis will have a home in fire decks, I think, as either a 2 or a 3 of.
Yeah, so. And there were a couple other like honorable mention, like cards that were almost here too, like Vivi and Starter
Godot.
Warrior of Light and Godot.
Yeah, because those 3 cards are all of those cards are excellent. I think the Starter Warrior of Light might be one of the best fire cards they've ever printed.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean,
it's in the top 10, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, most of these cards, their only problem is they're red, right? Like that's.
Yeah, that is in fact most of their issues.
Yeah. So I'll go through the top 5, I guess, really quick, and this is in order from 5 to 1, how we ranked it. So number 5 is Belias. Number 4 is Opus 3 Phoenix. Number 3 is Opus 5 Phoenix. Number 2 is Meath. And number 1 is Vermilion Bird, Lassie, K-Tuna.
Yeah, so the reason we picked these 5, right? We're starting with Belias. Belias is just a great value summon. It's always been one of the best summons in Fire because it gives you all the keywords, it gives you a buff, and it replaces itself.
Yeah, I mean, think about, we were talking yesterday, like, what a good modal summon in Fire would be, and the more we thought about it, we were just like, I can't just do these things because Belias already does that for 2 CP and draws a card.
Yep. It's true.
Yeah, so I mean, it just does a lot for how cheap it is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is kind of hard to fit it into a deck a lot of times because you want to run these other 2 Phoenixes that are right above it most of the time. So you don't. Belias kind of has been falling off a little bit, but it's still pretty insane.
Yeah, Belias is a card now too, and especially since I play 12 title and I use that thing in title, it's the best summon in the deck. And I think a lot of times, like when I was playing Fire Ice back in Opus 4 and Opus 5, Belias was the best summon in the deck. So
Yeah.
I think that card will always. I feel like when you're building fire decks, Belias is always a card that like it's always like when you have your 70 cards going into your 50 card deck, I feel like 2 or 3 copies of Belias are always there.
Yeah, Belias is like always on the maybe list at least.
Absolutely.
And if it warrants it, like if you have some kind of slight pingy stuff or just big dudes that would benefit from first strike and guys that benefit from haste, I mean, it's really, and it draws you a card. There's not many fire cards that draw you cards.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it replaces itself is huge. And speaking of just another good summon, the Opus 3 Phoenix. This card is something that I've just recently started playing a lot with. The card is stupid, and I think it got better for Fire with the addition of the 2-player starter set because of Furion and Warrior of Light.
Yeah, I think that kind of pushed it over the top a little bit. You can tell they were slowly trying to push this since Opus 5. This like Fire 2 CP, I'm gonna kill you really fast kind of deck. And every time they printed more of these really good 2 CP forwards, like Phoenix just got better. Also, not only that, but the reason, at least I argued to put both Phoenixes on here, is because the most meta deck with Fire in it is like any type of Urion J deck that runs Phoenixes. And so you're either going to play Earthwind with Big Phoenix, or you're playing like straight Urion J with both Phoenixes, or you're playing some weird control-y deck that has one or the other. So that was kind of why I argued that. It was funny because at first we were trying to think of forwards and stuff, and then I was like, you know what? I don't think Fire deserves to have any forwards in the top 5. I know that's sad, but like
no, because they're a fantastic splash element right now, and I think their utility cards do so much for other archetypes.
Yeah, and then the top 2, right? Like I almost want to reverse them, maybe, but I'm not sure because the more I talk about and think about Meath, like I think he's the best Fire card we've seen in a while.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
He just allows you to do things, and the fact that he can discard light and dark cards or go get light and dark cards or go get any element that he wants is really nuts to me. You just have to build your deck in a way that benefits him, which isn't hard. You just have to run multiple 2 or 3 drops, and then people aren't thinking about the fact that I can play backups that replace themselves to play this backup to pitch that to go get another forward. Like Dominion Legionary is a great example, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like now I can play a Fire backup to get me a 4-cost Fire backup, then play a 2-cost Fire backup, pitch the 4-cost I searched to go get a 4-cost forward. And now I have a forward that I wanted and 2 backups on the field.
Yep. Hell, maybe even 3 if you play it right. Because I'm basing all this a lot on the Earth Fire Warrior of Light deck that really runs that value train. And I know Mono Fire runs that same value train as well. Like there's a lot there. And I know we kind of glazed over the 7 CP Phoenix. The reason that card is good is for the exact same reasons that the Opus 3 Phoenix is good.
Yeah, it just has more targets, right? I think the value of targets outside of Fire for the Big Phoenix is better. Right, you got things like Thoughtseize Dane, like Y'shtola, like Halicarnassus, Noctis. There's a lot. The list is very long. And then I don't want to like move on to Win before we at least touch on K-Tuna. Like she was our number 1.
Yeah.
She does a lot for Fire, and I feel like once maybe next set, maybe 2 sets when Fire's in a really good place, because I do feel like they're slowly making it better. I mean,
I agree.
Just think about our next element, Wind, right? Like 2 or 3 sets ago, Wind was like, okay, Mono Wind's okay, but it ain't that great. And now you're messing up if you're not playing a deck with Wind in it. So I think it's slowly getting there, and I think K-Tuna is going to be a big part of it. The fact that you can cast a summon from your deck 4 or less, and then now all your summons are buffed by 1k is a pretty big deal.
It's like a free piece of removal, and it does a lot. It does an awful lot, and I think that was the card from Opus. That was Opus 6.
Yes, yeah.
Because there was another K-Tuna at Opus 5 that wasn't great.
Yeah, that was the one that went with Vermilion Bird that broke all your backups.
Yeah, that one's not great. But this one I think is. I think if as Fire continues to evolve, it is a cornerstone of the deck. I think it always will be.
Yep. And so I think with that we can move to Wind.
honorable mention for this one was the 3 CP Zidane. You'll notice that this is the only Zidane that's going to be on this list because I think right now this one is just such a hoser. You're just taking critical pieces out of people's hands when the game, because the games are starting to go a little bit longer, right? There's more build time now. Zidane can just stop you cold.
Yeah, I think like a turn 2 or 3 of the 3 CP Zidane is kind of a ball buster. A lot of times, I mean, the good players that play it are gonna take whatever you were planning next turn. Like, if it's like water and they play a backup and I play a back, like say I go first, I play a backup, they play a backup, I play Zidane and I'm like, oh, Facilia, that's cool, get that out.
Yep. Or like on a later turn when they play their win backups and they drop Alera and they go to get Yuri and you're like, Zidane, get rid of Yuri.
Yep.
It's such a great counterplay.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. I think the 4 CP is also really good, but he didn't quite make our list. This was probably the hardest 5 to put
I agree
down.
with that. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so the 5 were Mog 11, Legendary Y'shtola, Starter Valifor, Cactuar, and Diabolos in that order from 5 to 1.
All right, so we have beat Moogle 11 to death on this podcast. That card's insane. The card is insane. The fact that you can just, at any time you want, get any card you want for the low cost of tapping the Moogle and discarding Moogle, just there's nothing but value there. And then the decks that it's played in, like Mono Wind, which just kind of just keeps their value train going, or in like Earthwind, where you can keep recurring it with Minor and Minfilia and all that stuff. Like the tutors you have, the tutoring power you have off of that card is just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and the fact that Earthwind can tutor for it too. So basically, Star Sybil, as long as Mog's in your deck, essentially says search your deck for a card.
Pretty much. Yeah, and that's the main reason Moogle 11's on the list, because just the utility it brings to Earthwind. That's already a deck archetype that has a lot of answers, and now it can just get those answers when you need them.
Yep, and then Y'shtola L. I mean, again, not much more to say about the card. Like it just reads well. You read it and you're just like, this has to be dumb. It's kind of, that card's kind of the bane of my existence. I hate that card so much, but I mean, but I'm gonna play it.
Because like you see that card hit the table and you're just like, all right, I've got to do something about this. I've got to find a way to get this thing off the board so I can, continue with my game plan. Because, because a good player is going to play with Y'shtola when you're trying to mount an offensive, or like it's time to Shantoto, or it's time to really play this summon that's going to turn things around. Not, Y'shtola makes you say you better have another answer, or you better be able to get rid of this and still be able to play your initial turn. Yeah,
like all these big summons that are being played now, all these high costs and stuff. Like you play a Y'shtola and you're just like, well, that changes my entire next turn now, or even the game in general. Like I could be sitting on a Shantoto and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna Shantoto this 2 forward board because it makes sense. Even though I'm not gonna get the most value out of Shantoto I want, I have to do it now. And then they play a Y'shtola and you're just like, oh, cool. And then also she, because she doesn't have any kind of entry ability or anything like that, like she doesn't stack to anything, so as soon as she's out, she's just out, and now you're locked out of your summons and your autos, right? Like,
yep. And she's also another card that really just kind of hoses fire.
Yeah, it's bad for fire. The fact that she's immune to damage is really awful. Same with lightning. She hoses lightning pretty well too.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's really, really brutal. So then moving along from that, we have was it Starter Valifor was next?
Yep.
Starter Valifor is another card that has just popped up recently. And this is mainly because of just what it does to, the Viking Layla strategies, the value water wind decks that are constantly untapping, the value wind decks, it's mostly, I guess it's just in water wind because you need Yuna to untap your backups.
Yeah, I mean that was the one thing, right? That I really like this summon, and I do think the power level is high. I know there's a lot of community members that love this card and understand that it also has a very, very high power level.
Oh, I think it's insane. I think it's an insane card.
The only thing that keeps it a little bit lower for me is the fact that it really only gets used in one deck.
Yep.
And that's Wind Water. But the deck that it gets used in, it's nuts, right? Like, I could play something once I get to 5 backups and I have Yuna out as one of those backups, I play a 3 CP, whatever, it doesn't matter, Y'shtola, right? Mm-hmm. I then cast this off my backups to ready all my backups, and then I'm going to Diabolos, break a 5-drop, turn something to 1k, and now I've just killed 2 things, played a forward, and all my backups are like, I mean, I've used my CP efficiently, basically.
Yes. And that's what makes it such a good card. The fact that you use it in conjunction with all of these great value cards, and you've done so much, and it's cost you next to nothing.
Yep.
Great, absolutely great.
Basically nothing, right? Like you just
yeah,
you got insane value for just having backups on the board. So.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game in that deck. And then the last two are pretty obvious. The next one is Cactar.
Yeah.
This card's stupid. It's again, we're talking another tool for Earth Wind, and there's just so many great cards that play with this. Barbarisha is one of them. Obviously, Dataluma is the big one, like the big elephant in the room. The utility it has with Noctis.
Yep.
Late game, if you have Cactars out and Noctis, like it's a huge threat. Like that potentially could destroy 3 things on a board. And in this meta right now, killing 3 things is almost a board wipe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just versatile. It's funny how versatile a little card that just says tap deal 1k is. Like, It only costs 1 CP, which makes it even better. You have the break effect for, like, when you need to use that to either try to come back or just win the game.
Yep.
And then, yeah, of course, like, 2 Cactar plus Dataluma is just unfair.
It's pretty lights out. Like, the card just does an awful lot. And it's also great in, Wind Lightning decks, too, when you can just combo that with the 1 CP Ramu, or combo that with, like, Orlando, or, what's his name? Angeal Penance. There's a lot you can do. Like, Cactar just does so much for a lot of archetypes, and it's just good. It just does so much for so little.
Yep. And then the last one, obviously, Diabolos. If you saw our Q&A this week, we did, like, what was the best summon in the game, and everybody picked this unanimously.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's other summons up there, like Valifor, like a few others, but this, to me, is still the best summon in the game. It just does too much.
Yeah, and the fact that you can, like, there's no combination of, because you get to pick 2, which is dumb, and any combination of the 2 that you pick are all super effective in conjunction with each other. It's just that card that sums up Wind to a T. It just does really stupid shit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great card.
Yeah, and then next is Ice, so if you want to talk about the honorable mention there.
So the honorable mention, this one was kind of tough too, but we actually all kind of landed on the honorable mention being Celis. Like, Celis is just a good card for mono Ice because, well, just for Ice in general, because she's good for, she does something when she comes in that's relevant. It has a very relevant ETB. She's a counter spell on a body, which is huge. And she kind of helps with, like, the pingy stuff that you can do in certain archetypes. Like, if she swings and puts 4K on something, then you slam a Sid Reigns after that. Oh, that's brutal. That is brutal.
Yeah, and then from 5 to 1, got Shiva Opus 3, Devout, Renoa Opus 6, Sephiroth Opus 7, and Genesis.
Yeah, so kind of a usual suspects here. A lot of these, everybody knows the power level of a lot of these cards. Shiva, I know there was a while, earlier this year where people were like, Shiva's not that good because of Orphan. Then like Turbo was a thing, and you realized how quickly that, somebody's playing Ice. You, like, coming down the home stretch of the game, you really have to choose your attacks wisely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a card you have to play around, even if it might not be in the deck.
Right, because that's I'm glad you said it like that, because Shiva's one of those cards that just the threat of a Shiva is just as dangerous as the actual card itself.
Yeah, and I think almost all the summons on this list fall into that category. It's like, if you see that element, like, you have to play around it, even if it's not in the deck, like, because you don't know. And Shiva is even more so one of those things, because you have to you're like, oh, if he plays Shiva and those 2 guys, I'm just dead here. I can't attack. Like, that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, it's brutal. Absolutely brutal. And then next is Devout, right?
Yeah, Devout. I mean, obviously insane, right? Like, it's not color locked. It gets its value off breaking itself. Probably one of the best breakable backups in the game, even though it costs 4. It's instant speed. Only during your turn, but instant speed. You can do insane cards with the next card in Renoa, like, allow you to blink things. You want Renoa in the break zone most of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. And then, leading into that, like I said, Renoa, like, being able to blink the cards on this list plus other cards, it's just, like, blinking a Nidhogg, blinking a Sephiroth, blinking a Genesis, blinking an Ultimecia. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
Opus
pretty long
6.
list.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that they made pretty much a restoration angel for this game, with especially an element that has nothing but insane ETB triggers as it is, right? She's slightly undercurved, but that's kind of par for the course for ice, right? But the value she gets, like Opus 6 was just full of. I mean, I can't tell you how many games during the course of Opus 6 that all of us played where Nidhogg got blinked by Renoa
Yep.
multiple times, or now Ultimecia is a good target for that. Genesis is always a good target for that. Blinking Lock to get the double discard on the turn. Like, the card just does so much in an element that really didn't need it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's she's nuts, man. Like, I mean, obviously, like, by herself, she's not that nuts because she doesn't do anything by herself. But she just needs one card out that's insane to be able to use her ability on it. It's crazy. And
yeah,
then
she definitely goes from being like an amazing card with something else out to just being a dud by herself.
yeah, and then the next card, Sephiroth, is a new card. I don't know if people have experienced this in their local meta, but we have seen a lot of this guy. I play decks that like to have cards in their hand. I play decks.
Says, fuck that.
Yeah, I play decks that are things cost a pretty good amount, and the worst is, and I was talking about this exact situation yesterday, so I'll touch on it for like a second. The worst is when you have four cards in your hand, right? And they drop this guy, and you're like, oh man, what do I discard? What 2 cards do I need to get rid of? And you mull over it for like 45 seconds to like a minute and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally decide on the 2 cards you want to discard, and you discard those 2 cards, and then they go Sephiroth special.
Yeah, or they just go Devout Renoa.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, it's like, just do that first. Like, stop making me waste a minute of my time. But I mean, obviously, you should do it that way. But it's just annoying. It happens to me every time.
Yeah, because Ron is real big on the mono ice deck. He plays a really powerful mono ice deck right now, and Sephiroth is the cornerstone to that. Like you play against ice these days, and it's not even turbo anymore. But you still have to worry about your hand just getting stripped at any time after like turn 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, double Sephiroth, like Sephiroth special. Obviously, the flans are there. They're still running like 1 to 2 Citadel Stains. They have to be worried about Edward.
Yep.
I mean, they're still good. This deck is still really good. This deck is still probably like I would probably put it like tier 1.5. But like it's insane, and I think Sephiroth makes it more insane, which is why he's this high on the list. Also, the fact that when they get you Hellbent, he's gonna just dull and freeze and move something out of the way. Like,
yeah, just insane value. Just the card's good. The card is the fact that he costs 7. If he cost any less than 7, hell, I think he should cost 8. Truth be told.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if you remove any piece of text on him, he gets a lot worse. Like, I think it's the sum of its parts, right? It's everything all at once is what makes him good. And I think if you remove one of those things, he drops pretty hard. And then number 1 is like, yeah, I mean, it's no shocker, right?
Yeah, speaking of a card that's worth the sum of his parts, Genesis has always been the best ice card ever printed. He will probably continue to be the best ice card ever printed because he does everything that ice wants to do. He comes into play, he does something, and then as he attacks, he's going to strip your hand.
Yep.
It's just good. The card is just good, and you will never find an ice deck that is playing less than like 2 of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 3-cost summon on a 3-cost body, right? But he costs 4 CP, and then he has another effect.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane, right?
The card's dumb. The card is just dumb, and it will continue to be dumb. But I'm so glad that now, when you going back to the insane value that was that 2-player starter set. If you don't have Genesis and you haven't picked one of those up yet, you better just I know stores are probably closed this weekend, but find yourself a store, find yourself a 2-player starter set. That way you'll have your 3 Genesis, because that card's just dumb, and it will always be dumb.
Yeah. So next is Earth.
Boy, Earth is nothing but bangers, which is so funny. The honorable mention here is one of my favorite cards, probably my second favorite card in the game, or it might have even well, I can't even think of the right word. I guess we'll just say replaced, because I'm having a Porky Pig moment here. The card that kind of replaced Sabin maybe is my favorite card in the game was Noctis. That card is just frightening because. Yeah.
He's just good at all points in the game, right? I mean, he's kind of a better Opus 1 Cecil, and that was a card people were starting to play toward the end, and I feel like he's just better than that card.
Yeah, like early in the game, you play him, you stop all kinds of like weenie aggro rush. Mid game, he's going to start going toe to toe with things, especially if you have like anthems out. He's going to start killing, he's going to start killing 4 drops and 3 drops, and you can protect him if you've built up. Then late game, when you're at like 5 or 6 damage, oh dude, this is where like the board wipe starts to threaten. Where like you play Cecil, you dark, you're gonna battle that, you're gonna kill that. Noctis will kill that with his ability when you go to 6, and God forbid you flip like a Titan or a Yojimbo on that thing. Oh, it's party time.
Yeah, yeah, and then from 5 to 1, obviously the Earth cards are Miner, Wall, Star Sybil, Shantoto, Opus 1, and Dodaluma.
Yeah, so Miner Miner's just such a staple now. The heart of like the recursion in a lot of these decks is Miner, because he gets you something right off the bat, and then he gets you something back at any point in the game that you want. And the fact that it's not restricted to any turn, you can do it any time.
Yeah, I mean, and this was probably the hardest slot. Was this last slot? I think the other 4 were kind of gimmies. I think.
Oh, for sure.
This slot was hard, but we picked Miner just because it goes in everything, right? Like,
yeah, if you're playing yellow cards, you're looking at least 2 Miners. At least 2.
Yeah, and the fact that you can kind of keep looping itself if you get set up is pretty nuts, and kind of just lets you access your break zone just at the cost of 1 colorless and Earth CP.
Yeah.
So, then the next card is the most expensive card in the game for a reason. I mean, Wall's text is long, it does all good things, and it shuts off a mechanic of the game, so...
Yeah.
Can't be bad.
Yeah, and he's just an immediate threat. And it's kind of funny that how good this card is, we still don't think it's the #1 Earth card. Because, like, right now, like with EX Burst not being a huge thing, you don't necessarily need 3 of in the deck anymore. I think a lot of decks now can run 1 wall, 2 wall, especially if you're playing like I guess because that wall is not that great in like a Warrior of Light Shell, which, yeah, I'm kind of eating my words. I always thought that, the light wall would never really take off, but it kind of has now, especially with all of these smaller 2 drops and these newer ones that have come out. But if you're playing like, I don't know, like if you're playing a deck that, wall is good, but he's not the cornerstone of the deck, you can get away with 2 because you can always search him out and you can always recur it with Miner.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like you said, like there are still high impact bursts, but it's not like people are running like some massive amount of bursts like they were to try to stop Turbo's aggression, stuff like that. So you don't have to really worry about. I mean, it's still there. Like you're still gonna do it. You're still gonna be like no burst just for safety reasons.
Oh, absolutely.
The other thing is like I think in a vacuum, Wall is probably the best card because you just read him outside of even thinking about other cards and he's good. And I think
he shuts down a mechanic of the game.
I think at least 2 of the 3 cards ahead of him. While they need synergy to be good, like they're obviously like 3 ofs for reasons. And it's not that Wall's bad and that like if you're running 3 walls you're bad. Like nothing like that. It's just we think that the other 3 cards are in a slightly better place in the meta.
Yeah, and again, just keep in mind this is a snapshot. Like we're kind of looking at this like right now.
Yeah, and I mean that goes with the next card, right? Star Sybil. I mean, this card costs 5. It's EX Burst. It lets you search for a lot of really good cards, including the next card on the list, which is Shantoto. You get to search Cam. You can search Mog. You can search Semi. Agido. If you have Semi out, this costs 3, and it's extremely unfair. You can break. Then it's breakable, and you can just play a 6 CP or less for just breaking it. Like that's all you have to do.
Yeah. Just think of all the dumb cards you get to just put into play for free off of that. And then, if you got Semi out, you just play another one for 3.
Yeah, it basically discounted your 5 and 6 drops to 3 if you have Semi out. It's pretty... I mean, you just have to wait a turn. Like, that's it. Breaking this to get Cam, to go get Chaos and all that. Like, that the value train on that's nuts. Breaking this sometimes just to play a Wall or a Dodaluma is still fine.
Well, and the fact that it's an EX burst is what makes it nuts. I still have the Vietnam flashbacks of in my LCQ against Curtis in the finals when the 6 point of damage was that Star Sybil, and that just being able to get that Shantoto gave him enough cards to play the Shantoto.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the EX is like the cherry, right? Kind of like it just makes it even better than it is. And then obviously number 2, Shantoto, like it's the best board wipe in the game still. I mean, if you're playing some kind of slow, grindy control deck, you're probably running at least 2 of this card. You know, you can get away with running less if you're running Sybil, but that's really it. Like other than that, like you're running 2 to 3 of this card because you need to have access to that board clear. And I mean, not only does it board clear, it fixes your CP. I mean, it's well worth 7 CP. Like, to just put it that way.
There's a reason it's held its value since Opus 1.
Yeah, and then number 1, obviously, Big Dataluma, right? Like,
probably one of the most unfair cards in the game.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
no two ways
there are other. I think other cards is what make him more unfair. Like if it was just a vanilla, or like if you look at like mono Earth decks or whatever. Not saying mono Earth's great right now. It's good, but like it's not like top tier or anything.
Sorry, Vince. Sorry, Greg.
I mean, like you're not playing Dataluma in those decks a lot of times, and if you are, you're running like 1 as like a cute thing to stop certain things, because they can't really, unless they're running like Pelennor, like they're not really doing much with him. Well, you pair that guy with Wind. And
or ice.
Yeah, or ice. And like it's just dumb things are gonna happen. Like
it just does so much because he can just start machine gun downing a board with like if you go back and watch Worlds, there was a match where 100 Nance was on stream. He was playing his Earth Ice deck, and he had Rare Terra and Dataluma out, and that was a wrap. It just completely just obliterated everything on the other side, like Rambo coming out of the swamp.
Yeah, it's like one of those chain guns where you just like kind of move it from right to left and everything dies.
Pretty much, yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, I mean that's the Earth cards. I feel like those are pretty straightforward, I think. And so next is Lightning.
Mm-hmm. So our honorable mention on this one was Adia. And I'm talking the EX Burst 6 CP Adia that just breaks something equal or less to the number. It's equal or less to the number of backups.
Correct. Yeah, equal. So she could kill a 5-drop if you have 5.
Yeah, and like the card's just really good. And now it got even better when they printed the backup Adia. Because now you start to see more Adia special. What's up? And Cypher. Yeah, Cypher now you can search it out. Card's just really insane. It's such a good tempo play.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, not much more to be said there. I think she's just a mono lightning staple, and she's really good. So from 5 to 1, we have Alcid, Alice, Ramu, Zemus, Alua.
Yeah, so we'll start with Alcid. This guy used to be the big boogeyman of purple cards, and now, man, like he's barely making top 5 in my opinion. He's still good. He's still very, very good, but I think now everybody knows how to play around it. Like you either like. It's like one of those things that if you play a forward and you're playing against Lightning, chances are you've either you're expecting the Alcid and you've got an answer for it, or you've played something that'll have some kind of effect that if it dies, you can take. Like you'll play Dataluma against Lightning. They play Alcid, the board's just gone.
Yep. Yeah, or you have these summons that have been printed that just answer him like basically really well.
You mean like one of the other cards on our list?
Yeah, that and like Yuri. I mean, that answers them pretty insanely well.
Mm-hmm.
They just kept printing things that kind of make it harder for you to Alcid. Granted, you still if you get Alcid to resolve, it's still going to be a huge tempo swing in your favor. And also, as a new player, it's a card you have to still be aware of. Like you remember the first time you get hit by Alcid, you will remember it. I promise you. Like he's one of those cards, and I think he still barely makes top 5 for me. But you're right, his power level is definitely going down. That's why he's lower on our list. And the only reason he's still number 5 for me is because I think mono lightning decks still have to run at least 2 of this card.
Yep, I agree. It's not the 30 card deck that we've often said mono lightning is anymore. He's still there, but he's not as powerful as he used to be.
Yeah, and then the next card I think is a card people forget is a lightning card.
I think it's one of the most important lightning cards, and that's Alize.
Yep.
Alize is the reason Scions are tier 1.
Yep, I agree. She makes the archetype in my opinion. If they didn't all have haste, they would. I think Warrior of Light would be the best tribal if all the Scions didn't have haste. But the fact that they do have haste, I think, pushes them also into that tier 1.5 area. Just giving access to all these like big doofy forwards that bounce off each other haste, that deal with dull stuff is just nuts. So.
And the fact that it costs 4 means you just can't archer it.
Yeah, and you can search it out. Like, I mean,
it's just
it does a lot. And it doesn't have much text on it, and it does a lot. Like, it's insane.
It's very to the point. It's a very, like, all your Scions have haste, and it turns out all your Scions are super synergizing with each other. And it costs 1 less if you have Alpha Knot out.
Yeah.
which is even dumber.
Yeah, I mean, if you can play it for the discount, by all means, but just play it when you can. Just play it as soon as you can. Like, you won't regret it.
That's true.
Then the next card is Ramu. I mean, it's pretty insane. And this is the obviously the Opus 6 Ramu.
It's again one of those answers to Al Cid we were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a modal with a ton of good options, right? It kind of made monster players pretty scared, myself included. You still have to kind of be scared that you're playing monsters if you see lightning cards at the table, because you're going to be able to like usually kill 2 things for just the 1 summon. Worst thing you do is give a lightning forward haste.
Yeah, which is still really good because it could just win you the game.
Yep.
Yeah, card's dumb. And speaking of dumb, these last 2 cards are really insane too. Zemus is next, right?
Yep, Zemus is number 2.
Zemus is a threat that when he gets played on the board, you better have an answer for him, or he will take over the game and you will just lose. There's no way to sweeten that up. You will just lose the game if you cannot answer Zemus.
Yeah, I mean, he's a card that requires you. He's slow, right? But like, if you do not kill him, yeah, you're probably just gonna lose the game because they're gonna keep like getting value out of their break zone. They're gonna keep replaying Aluas. They're gonna keep playing more Alcids. Like, you could play around 1 or 2 Alcids. You're gonna play around 6. Like,
exactly. And the thing is now Mono Lightning have threats at all CP costs. You have the 1 CP Ramza from Opus 7. You could always bring back like a Regetia if you need to. Then you have a Lua at 3. You have Alcid at 4. If you're real fucking saucy, you can bring back Estinian.
That's Idea too.
Idea. All the main costs, there's something to bring back that is a legitimate threat that could just blow your opponent out. All because you didn't have an answer for Zemus. Like the card's nuts.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Mono Lightning, this is like a 3-up for me at least. 100%. So, and even in other decks too, like if you have like really high quality recurable lightning targets. But he obviously shines in Mono.
Oh, absolutely.
Then number 1 is everybody's favorite card, Lua. So.
God, the card's dumb. The card, like I've never played a card. Like, it's a card that when you play it and like your opponent just looks at you, you're just like, oh shit, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I like to play my Alua sideways. So.
Oh, pretty much. And she comes into the board horizontal. It's like Bomat Courier and like all the stuff from like the red deck, Magic, last standard rotation. You just play it. It's already sideways and coming at you. And you hope to God when Alua swings that you have like a burst on top that can kill it.
Yeah, it feels really good when you kill her off a burst. But yeah, like the shield is really annoying, and she has no business having the S that she has, but she has it. So.
God, the S is dumb. The S just wins games. And we covered that a couple episodes ago. We talked about the top S abilities. This was number 1 for a reason. And there's a reason this is, I think, the best lightning card in the game. And truth be told, I think it probably will be for a long time.
Yeah, I don't see anything beating this card for a bit unless they just print something really nutty.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so then the last of the main elements is water.
Mm-hmm. So the honorable mention for that one, we actually went with Halicarnassus. Newer edition. This card's nuts. The fact that it just blanks everything, and it gives water the opening it needs sometimes to take care of something. Being able to blank like a Y'shtola and but granted, if you play Halicarnassus and they have Y'shtola out, they'll probably sack the Y'shtola to stop the ability. It's that powerful.
Yeah, that's fine though. I think you're okay with that.
That's what you were looking to do anyway.
It lets you deal with forwards that water couldn't deal with before, like Zidane, like Y'shtola, because now it opens them up to Fasoya.
Yep, and that's huge. And like the other ability, like the discarding summons to break something, is just like that's just kind of icing on the cake.
Yep, I think so too. Yeah, and so from 5 to 1, we have Cognazo, Opus 1 Rare Una, Opus 4 Viking. Opus 5 Cloud of Darkness, and Fanfrit.
Yeah, so Cognazo continues to be water's primary win condition. Like there's like there's a point in the game where you're playing against water, or you are the water player, and you got your 5 backups, you got 3 or 4 forwards out, and you're like, oh, I think now I just play Cognazo and win the game.
Yep.
Because Cognazo Scholar, Cognazo is still super, super powerful. And the fact that it can just put, especially if you have Walkout and Minwu, oh God, forget about it. Like you need to have Cognazo out of the way, or you're just not going to win.
Yeah, he's like a huge wall if you have that out. Like you just can't get through him. It's pretty nutty. True. And then I mean, obviously the rare Una The last couple sets, she's really shined really hard. Like making Fanfrit cost 2, making Choo-Choo Lane cost 3, your Leviathans cost 2. You know, I mean, it's
Smart costing 1.
Yeah, her name is Yuna, like, so which helps with like Valifor and stuff like that. So it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, card's real good.
Yeah, and then obviously the next one on the list, like Viking. Layla was a good card, still is a good card, but it was good because of this Viking. I think if this Viking doesn't exist, Layla is definitely not that great. The power level I feel like has come down on Layla a little bit, and you're starting to see it because decks are getting tighter and they have less room for cards, and so making 6 slots is kind of tough. But this Viking continues to still be good. I mean, it's 3 CP, basically draw 2 cards. I mean, the last draw is delayed, but you're gonna draw 2 cards.
Regardless of what happens to that Viking, you're getting that card.
Yeah, and it's pretty nuts. So.
Yeah, it's just a card advantage machine, and you play it knowing you want it to die.
Yeah, I mean, it also pairs well with the number 1 card on our list, Fanfrit, and the number 2 card on our list, Cloud of Darkness, because if you play Layla Viking, it makes your board bigger for Cloud of Darkness, and it gives you something to easily sacrifice for Fanfrit to force your opponent to probably kill something of more value.
Yep, and I'm pretty certain Cloud of Darkness is the best water legendary ever printed.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Water Legends, I feel like have gotten shafted a little bit. But they have insanely good commons and rares and heroics.
Oh, they do.
So
they do. And then, there's really not much to say about Cloud of Darkness other than that it's just a good piece of removal that gets around a lot of the stipulations, like the can't be broken or doesn't take damage, or like Cloud of Darkness is just like, all right, well, reduce that by 8K, reduce that by 10K. Oh, it doesn't matter, it's dead.
Yeah, power reduction obviously is the best like kind of removal per se because it's the hardest to play around, right?
Yeah, Cloud of Darkness is just an insane card, and it's only matched by the insanity of the top card on the list. And Fanfrit to me is the number 2 summon in the game right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Fanfrit would be number 2 for me as well. It's just a ball buster, man. Like you play, there's so many things where it's bad. It's like if you want to be the aggressor, so you play a forward first. Okay, Fanfrit, your guy's dead. I have nothing on board. Have fun. I play Layla Viking. I have 2 forwards. You have to now answer. You answer with 1 forward. Oh, I'm sorry. Fanfrit. Like,
yeah,
it does a lot. And then it gets discounted by Yuna. But, like, you don't even need that. I'm fine paying 3 CP for that summon.
Well, and then also, too, like, if you don't have any forwards on the board and your opponent plays something to try to be the aggressor, you just hit him with that personal pan Fanfrit. Feels great.
Yeah.
And it gets around Wool, too. Like, if Wool swings and you flip a Fanfrit, you're like, oh, yeah, get that thing out of here.
Exactly, yeah. Because Wool, it doesn't target, right? Or it selects.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, your opponent has to choose, yeah.
Yeah, opponent selects.
Yeah, opponent selects. Yeah, choosing and selecting in this game is very different.
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah, that's pretty much the main elements, and now we got the top for light and dark.
Yeah, so we're only doing 1 each for light and dark, and then 1 honorable mention for each. So we'll start with light.
Yeah, so the honorable mention for light is Fusoya. Obviously, it's just it's the name of its own archetype. It plays well with so many things, and the fact that you can just put damage on something, do damage to yourself, and you start triggering abilities like Noctis. You get all those really because it's primarily used in water or wind water, and sometimes even earth water because of Noctis. Just being able to damage yourself and still use the burst and take care of something, and then have something else take it. It's just nuts. It enables a lot of things.
Yeah, being able to use the burst, I think, is what makes it super nuts. It made its own archetype, right? Like you said. I mean, it's a build around card, which is, and if a build around card is worth building around, it's always going to be nuts.
Correct.
And then I mean, the best light card in the game is Yuri.
No, like by a mile. Like Fusoya is good, but I think Yuri is just the best light card that has ever been printed, and they're gonna have to make something really, really special to be better than that, because that is a card that when it hits the board, if you do not have an answer for it, you are beyond fucked.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out when your card text is a short novel, it's usually pretty good.
Yeah, dear diary, I will dull these 3 backups to dull and freeze your biggest guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good, and it obviously it pushes mono elements. I mean, you see them in 2-color decks too, but it really pushes the mono elements more, so mainly wind.
Yeah, and like the fact that there's a whole package like dedicated to them, like the we just learned yesterday it's a bird, but we're still going to call it a tree because it looks like a tree.
Yeah.
If it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck.
It's probably
all.
it's probably a tree, right? Yeah, that's how
It's got to be a tree.
Yeah.
Well, I think we also just found the name of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, and then Dark, obviously. Honorable mention is Cam, right? I mean, Cam is really good. I know people might be surprised that Cam's not our best Dark card, because he still sees a ton of play. But
and he searches stuff out, and he's just a good cornerstone Dark card, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just good.
Yeah, he's really good. He generates a lot of value, and he has to be answered like the turn he comes out, or he's going to be extremely annoying.
Especially if you're playing a monocolor deck.
Yep. And then, yeah, our best Dark card is another Opus 6 card. Opus 7, sorry, card, and that's Galdus.
Yeah, Galdus is just stupid. Talk about a card that, we talk about value and just generating a lot of stuff. Like the fact that it's a 3 CP 8K, that dude has no business being overcurved.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever said this card was like average at any point in time, because I definitely did. I think when I saw this, they revealed it at Nats, and I was like, "Oh, that card's just kind of slow. It's average." I was like, way wrong. I mean,
yeah. The card's dumb.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an 8K. All of its effects are dumb. It gives monster recursion to decks that shouldn't have monster recursion without having to splash any other color. It always is going to trade, like almost always is going to trade at worst.
Yeah.
And then the random discard could just like make you feel so bad.
Oh yeah. Because like you'll pitch cards in your hand to deal with it, then it's like, oh yeah, you got one card left, yeah, get it out of here.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then it's a Phoenix target.
Yeah.
Like,
God knows.
Yeah, I mean it's really good.
Yeah, and like and here's the thing, right? And the fact that Cam can search it out, some people are like, well, Cam can search it, maybe Cam's better. No, man, like if you're playing a deck with Cam and Galdus in it, just like you're just in such good shape.
Yeah, I think he's just completely replaced any need to play Shadow Lord or Emperor in the decks. Yeah. He took their slots, I think.
Pretty much.
And you're still seeing Cam in those decks, but then you're also just seeing Galdus by himself in some decks.
And you're seeing like 2 and 3 copies of him in decks, and that's something you typically don't see with the exception of Yuri and like Fasonia.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the other cards we just named. I mean, that's why they're good, right? They're cards that I can't discard for CP unless I'm playing another card.
But you're still running 3 copies of it. That's
exactly
how powerful they are.
Yep, exactly. And they have searchers, and you're still running 2 to 3 copies of them. Both of them have searchers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he's Crystal Chronicles. You can search him up with Epitaph.
Yep.
These cards are dumb. These cards are absolutely dumb. I can't get over them. And they're going to continue to be dumb and continue to see a lot of play, because these are cards like Yuri included. All 4 of these cards, Fasonia, Yuri, Galdus, and Cam. These are 4 cards that, like, when they hit the board, like, you need to have an answer for them. And because they're light and dark cards, they might be a little bit more difficult to answer unless you have like when I say that, I mean like Minfilia, obviously takes care of all of the problems there. Fasonia can really only be taken care of by like Archer and Hecaton Chair.
Minfilia can kill Fasonia as well.
Minfilia, yeah, she kills all 4 of them. But then like Cam, if you're playing against monocolor and he lives a turn, you're probably not killing him.
Yep.
And then and just and Yuri just is a ball buster, and Galdus also. Those guys just they just do all the ass blasting. That's all they do.
You want to get you want the light card that blasts you in the ass, or the dark card that also blasts you in the ass?
Yes. What you do is you play one of them and do some ass blasting of your own.
Yeah. I mean, Final Fantasy is just one big ass blast, right?
It's one big ass blast. It's starting to look that way now that Turbo's gone. You're just building cards and blasting ass. It's great. But yeah, like that's kind of what we think are the best cards for each element right now. And I'm pretty certain that if you're building out decks with these colors, you're running some of these. Like you're just not. There's no way you're playing decks that don't have these cards in them.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously cards on this list that are really good as well. I mean, not on this list, excuse me, that are also really good. That either like we didn't feel like they were meta defining enough right now, even though their power level is high. I think Sid 2 is a big example of that. Like I know Sid 2 is an extremely high power level card. And I've been playing with Sid 2 a good amount. But to me, the other 5 wind cards are just seeing way more play and are defining more decks that are making top cuts right now. That's all. Right. It has nothing to do with like Sid 2 not being a good card,
Right, because we were talking about just overall power level. Sid 2 would probably be like number 2 on the win list, right behind Diabolos.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it goes back to even like Fire. We were talking about Godot. I think Godot's a very powerful card. Ice Ultimecia was almost on the list. That's a super powerful ice card. Same thing with like Orphan. Those are just super powerful cards.
Yep.
Earth. I want to say we had Earth Cecil on there, Asmodai, Leo. Those are Lightning. The legendary Ramza from Opus 5. That card's nuts too.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good cards. The meta's wide open right now. Don't take this list as like you have to play these cards, but do take this list as like these cards you're gonna probably see.
Yep, and do take this list as you might want to consider playing these cards at least too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's all we got, man. That's kind of our wrap up. This has been a good year. Can't wait to see what happens in 2019.
Yeah, and I know we said earlier we might not have an episode, but we might have one right before New Year's, but we also might not. There's a chance we might just take that weekend off. I don't know yet. So
yeah, it really depends. Because I'll be out of town pretty much until New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So I mean, we there's a chance there's no episode next week, but it will be back the week after that for sure. And I'm sure we'll have to do a special reunion episode. We'll have to get a big round table down there.
100%. We'll have all 100 guests on.
Yeah.
It'll be like one of those music videos, like the What's Going On, or like Heal the World, or
We Are the World.
The Children. We Are the World. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be good. But otherwise, man, I've got nothing. Any parting thoughts?
No, I got nothing.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I have enjoyed it. I've been enjoying playing a lot of these cards over the last couple months, and can't wait to see what happens next. So with that being said. Also, real quick before we sign off, if you think there's any cards on these lists that we missed, man, hit us in the comments, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, or when we post this on our Facebook pages. If your thoughts on these lists, let us know, man. We always love hearing what other people think.
Yeah, you can tell us we're wrong. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, dude, we are no strangers to eating crow on this podcast, but we also sometimes are right, So we'll see what happens. But with that being said. Have a good one. Have a good holiday.
See you later. Happy holidays.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening once again to the RVA Returners podcast. If you like this content and you want to hear more, check us out on YouTube at RVA Returners. And make sure you follow us on SoundCloud and check us out on Google Play and iTunes.